He never spoke much, never raised his hand, never caused trouble, and yet she made him her target. What she didn't know was that the quiet boy she humiliated every day was the reason she still had a job. It started like any other school day. The clock above the whiteboard blinked 8:02 a.m. The class was half asleep, desks tilted, bags spilling open, kids pretending to care. And at the front of room 312 stood Ms. Karen Whitmore, freshly divorced, always tired, always irritated. Her eyes scanned the room like she was waiting for someone to breathe wrong. Then her eyes landed on him, the one who never looked up. Malik James, 14, dark hoodie, tightly twisted hair, always in the back, always scribbling in that worn notebook, like it was the only thing keeping him sane. Whitmore hated that notebook. Malik, she snapped, tapping her fingers against the podium. Are we keeping secrets today, or can you actually join class? He didn't look up, just kept writing. That was his mistake. The class chuckled. Ms. Whitmore smiled, but not kindly. I swear, it's like teaching a wall, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. That got a bigger laugh. Malik still didn't respond, didn't flinch, didn't blink. That made her angrier. Come up here and solve this, she ordered, pointing to the board. Since you're clearly too advanced for group discussion. Malik looked up, slowly, then stood. His sneakers squeaked on the linoleum as he walked to the front. He glanced at the algebra problem, picked up the marker, and solved it in 10 seconds flat. Perfectly, silently. Ms. Whitmore stared at the board, then forced a smile. Well, I suppose even a broken clock is right twice a day, she said. The class went quiet. Malik walked back to his seat. The notebook stayed closed this time. It became a routine. Every day, Ms. Whitmore found a reason to single him out. His silence? Disrespect. His writing? Disruptive. His hoodie? Dress code violation. One day, she announced an oral presentation. Random order. Malik's name was drawn third. He stood, walked to the front, and the moment he opened his mouth, someone snickered. Whitmore didn't stop them. She didn't say a word. Malik cleared his throat, tried again. She can't even talk loud, someone muttered. Still nothing from Whitmore. He powered through, narrating his original short story about a boy trapped between two worlds. One where he had to stay invisible, the other where he had to save people who never saw him coming. By the end, no one was laughing, except Ms. Whitmore. She clapped sarcastically. That was dramatic, she said. Next time, try sticking to something realistic. Malik didn't move, didn't speak, but something changed in his eyes. The next day, he didn't show up to class, or the day after. It was Friday when the email came. Mandatory staff meeting, 4 p.m. Ms. Whitmore walked in late, as usual, iced coffee in hand, wearing the same smug smile. The principal, Mr. Rowan, was seated next to a sharply dressed black man she'd never seen before. Tailored navy suit, smooth posture, quiet intensity. She sat across from him, not bothering to introduce herself. She didn't have to. He already knew who she was. Thank you all for coming, Rowan said. This is Mr. Julian James, our new regional board chair. The room murmured. New board chair? Since when? Rowan continued. He's here doing classroom evaluations and student culture reviews across the district. Whitmore leaned back in her chair, unimpressed, until Mr. James spoke. Low voice, measured tone. I'm also here because of a concern raised by one of our students about verbal targeting and public humiliation. Now she sat up straighter. We don't tolerate baseless accusations, she said quickly. Kids misinterpret structure all the time. James looked at her, calm, then smiled slightly. This student documented every incident, dates, times, even audio clips. Whitmore froze. He opened a folder. Inside, typed transcripts, labeled audio files, even photos of her board messages and sarcasm-filled notes. I've seen enough, he said, but I still wanted to meet the teacher in person. Rowan shifted nervously. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. Who's the student? She asked. Julian's eyes didn't blink. My son. The silence in the room hit like thunder. Whitmore's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I didn't know, she finally stammered. He never said anything. He didn't even act like... Like what? James asked, like someone worthy of respect. No, I mean, he was so quiet, I didn't think he had value. Julian leaned forward, or didn't think he had power. Rowan stood. Maybe we should continue this privately. No, James said, rising to his feet. This conversation is about culture, transparency, and accountability. He turned to the staff. How many other students go through this? Brilliant, observant, quiet, and punished for it. Whitmore sat still, her face burning. Malik didn't speak because he was watching, Julian said. He was documenting, not because he was weak, but because he knew no one would believe him if he didn't come with evidence. He looked directly at her. He gave you more chances than you deserved. By Monday morning, Ms. Whitmore was placed under review, not fired, yet, but the walls were closing in. Emails were pulled. Parents spoke up. Other students came forward. Malik returned to class, but not hers. He was transferred to the honors literature program. His notebook, published in the district's creative showcase. The title? Lessons in Silence. But the story didn't end there, because 1 week later, Julian James requested another meeting. This time, not with staff, with the school board. Rumor was he had a proposal that would change the way teachers were evaluated and held accountable, especially when it came to implicit bias. But someone didn't want that meeting to happen, because later that night, Malik's notebook went missing. Security footage was corrupted. The office was mysteriously unlocked, and a single sticky note was left in its place. Just 2 words: stay quiet. He was underestimated, ignored, dismissed, until his silence became the loudest thing in the room. Now the school is trying to cover its tracks, but Malik's story isn't over, and neither is the fight for what's right. Ms. Whitmore humiliated a quiet student in front of the entire class, not knowing he was the son of the school board's new chair, Julian James. Malik didn't fight back. He documented everything, and when the truth came out, it shook the school system. But now his notebook has vanished, and someone wants him silent, for good. It was early, still dark out. Jasmine Lewis, the school secretary, unlocked the main office. She wasn't expecting anyone to be inside, but when she opened the door, something was off. A drawer in the principal's cabinet hung open, loose papers on the floor, and the case file Julian James had requested, gone. But it wasn't just any file. It was Malik's notebook, the one he used to record every word, every date, every insult, the one that exposed the truth. Gone. Later that morning, Malik arrived for his first class. He sat down, quiet as always, calm, focused, but Julian knew. He pulled him aside after third period. They took it, he said. Everything. Malik nodded. I have backups, he whispered, but the original's gone. Julian froze. Someone scared. Malik didn't blink. Good. By the end of the week, rumors were flying. Some teachers whispered that Julian was pushing for new evaluation guidelines, ones that would require performance reviews based on student feedback and racial equity audits. Others said Ms. Whitmore was already lawyering up. And then came the email. Board meeting, emergency motion, closed session. Jasmine printed it out. Julian stared at it, then folded it in half. They're trying to shut it all down. That night, Julian's car was keyed in the school parking lot. No cameras, no suspects, just a word scratched into the side panel. Enough. It was the next morning when Malik returned to room 312, not as a student, but as a witness. The district had called a formal hearing. Ms. Whitmore was present, her lawyer beside her. Malik took the stand in the library, turned courtroom. His voice was calm, measured. I didn't speak because I didn't think it mattered, but when I did, it scared people. He paused, and when I stayed silent, it scared them more. Whitmore looked down, her face pale. The district board reviewed the evidence, the audio files, the backups, the witness statements. The missing notebook was never recovered. But it didn't matter. Malik had memorized everything. Dates, times, words, even the tone of her voice. He recited it like scripture. By the end of his testimony, the room was silent. One board member blinked back tears. Another cleared his throat, embarrassed. Julian stood in the back, hands folded, watching. The board voted unanimously. Ms. Whitmore was terminated, effective immediately. The room exhaled, but Malik didn't celebrate. He simply stood, packed up his binder, and walked out quietly. He wasn't chasing revenge. He was modeling something deeper. Later that evening, Julian sat with him on the steps outside the school. The sunset stretched across the parking lot. "You okay?" he asked. Malik nodded slowly. "Yeah." Julian looked at him. "You did what most grown men wouldn't." Malik stared ahead. "She thought I was invisible." Julian smiled faintly. "You made them see you." 1 month later, the district announced its new anti-bias initiative, with Julian James leading a reform council. Malik's story had gone beyond the school. Parents talked, students demanded equity, and teachers, good teachers, stepped up to support it. Ms. Whitmore, she moved out of state, filed for reinstatement. It was denied, not because of public pressure, but because, in the end, she underestimated the one student she never took the time to understand. At the spring showcase, Malik was invited to read his short story aloud. He stood on stage in front of 300 people, spotlight on his face, notebook in hand. But this time, it wasn't to survive. It was to lead. He opened the cover. Read the first line. "They told me I was quiet. They were right. I had nothing to say. Until I realized how loud the truth can be." The audience stood, not just for the story, but for the lesson, because the student who once sat silently in the back of the class was now at the front of a movement. Never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one building the loudest legacy. And sometimes justice doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be heard. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because we live in a world where too many Maliks go unnoticed, and too many Whitmores keep their jobs. But it only takes one voice to start change. What's one moment in your life where you stayed silent and wish you hadn't? Tell us in the comments. And subscribe to Truth in Black and White for stories that don't just expose the truth, they fight for it.